from performing in front of thousands of screaming fans who genuinely believed in him,
Little JJ!
to going completely silent on every platform, leaving millions of loyal followers with nothing but unanswered questions and broken promises. Lil JJ's story is one of a deliberate step back from the spotlight. In this video, we'll be looking at the reasons behind his disappearance and why he decided to leave an entire fan base behind him. The kid who had everything. At just 11 years old, Lil JJ did something most adult comedians never accomplish. He won Bet's Coming to the Stage talent search in 2003, absolutely destroying seasoned comics with material that had the judges laughing harder than they laughed in years. When the judges announced him as the winner, Lil JJ became the youngest person to ever win the competition, beating out seasoned professionals who'd been doing comedy for decades.
Little JJ!
The win was his golden ticket straight into Hollywood's inner circle. Nickelodeon came calling immediately, and by 2005, 14-year-old Lil JJ was hosting the Vital Information sketch and All That during its 10th and final season. He was sharp, confident, and he had the kind of natural comedic timing that couldn't be taught in any acting class, with people comparing him to young Eddie Murphy, saying, "He was funny, always reminds me of a young-looking Eddie Murphy." Just Jordan and peak fame. Then in 2007, Nickelodeon gave him his own show, something that every child actor dreams of. Just Jordan premiered on January 7, 2007. As part of the network's T-Nick lineup. According to the show, Jordan Lewis was 14 when he left Little Rock for Los Angeles. His mother brought him and his younger sister Monica to live with their grandfather, and Jordan started working at the family diner. The show pulled solid ratings, averaging 2.4 million viewers per episode during its first season. This helped Lil JJ become the face of the network's push for diverse programming, joining shows like Romeo and representing young black talent in mainstream television. At his peak, Lil JJ had gained millions of followers across social media platforms, and comments like these were everywhere under his videos. "This dude is funnier than most of these comedians today." And "This dude had serious talent at such a young age. That timing and command of a crowd. I'm 33 and still don't have that kind of confidence." Everything looked like it was falling into place perfectly, until cracks started to show. First signs of trouble. Just Jordan gave Lil JJ national visibility, but the problem was that the show ended abruptly in 2008 after only 2 seasons and 29 episodes total. The 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild of America strike stopped production, and when the dust settled, Nickelodeon decided not to renew the series. But that explanation doesn't tell the full story. The show's cancellation came at a critical moment in Lil JJ's career. He was 16 years old, stuck in that awkward gap where he was too old to play the cute kid but too young to transition into adult roles. The industry didn't know what to do with him anymore, and more importantly, Nickelodeon didn't have a backup plan. With no follow-up show, no major film roles, and no transition strategy, Just Jordan ended, and the hype around him that had been building since his Bet win 5 years earlier came to a stop. What made it worse was watching other Nickelodeon stars from the same era continue to do well. iCarly premiered in 2007, the same year as Just Jordan, and turned Miranda Cosgrove into a household name with 6 seasons and millions of dollars in earnings. Drake and Josh had launched Josh Peck and Drake Bell into stardom. Victorious would do the same for Ariana Grande and Victoria Justice just a few years later. But for Lil JJ, he only got 2 seasons and a pat on the back. The lack of follow-up opportunities was one of the first reasons Lil JJ began to distance himself from Hollywood. When the phone stops ringing and the auditions dry up, even the most talented performers start to question whether the industry ever really wanted them or just needed them for a specific moment. The social media posts became less frequent, and he began appearing less and less on television. Soon his fans started asking questions like, "What happened to him? Man, he was the best on Nickelodeon." And "What happened to Lil JJ?" By 2012, his public appearances had become rare. Google searches for his name returned old clips and canceled show announcements, but nothing current. Eventually, people started concluding this disappearance was intentional, saying he probably wants to stay out of the spotlight. This was the beginning of what felt like an abandonment of his fans by Lil JJ. More silence. What Lil JJ's fans didn't know was that Hollywood had a very specific box for young black comedians, and once you outgrew it, you were done. Lil JJ was boxed into the loud, funny kid role from day one. He was the comedian, the class clown, the kid who delivered punchlines with perfect timing and made the studio audience roar with laughter. The persona worked when he was 14, but as he aged into his late teens and early 20s, the industry stopped offering age-appropriate opportunities. This is a trap that catches most young black actors in Hollywood. They get typecast early, and when they try to break out of that mold, the door slams shut. The pressure was constant. Keep being the character everyone knows, or disappear. There was no middle ground, no room to grow, no opportunity to show range. Comedy was shifting toward internet creators and stand-up veterans during this period, and former child stars were getting left behind unless they had a massive breakout project to carry them through the transition. Lil JJ didn't have that project. He appeared in The Secret Life of the American Teenager in 2008, playing Duncan in a guest role that went nowhere. He then landed a small part in Men of Certain Age on TNT in 2009, but the show was cancelled after 2 seasons. And then, he showed up on Chelsea Lately for a single episode. Then later on in 2012, he joined the Ricky Smiley Show on TV1 as Brandon, a college student trying to figure out his life. The show ran until 2014, but it was cable television, not the mainstream visibility that Just Jordan had given him. These were just survival gigs, small roles in shows that most people never watched, and appearances that paid the bills but did nothing to advance his career. For someone who had his own network sitcom at 16, this felt like a slow-motion fall from grace, and that's when the mental burnout started setting in. The industry had chewed him up, spit him out, and moved on to the next kid without ever acknowledging what that does to a person psychologically. That's what Lil JJ was living through, and it was about to get so much worse. The Nickelodeon allegations and Lil JJ's response. In March 2024, everything got darker when Investigation Discovery released Quiet on Set, a 4-part docuseries that exposed widespread abuse in Nickelodeon under producer Dan Schneider. During the network's golden age, the man is behind some of the network's biggest hits during its golden age, shows like iCarly, Victorious, and Drake and Josh, but what seemed like a fun, creative workplace for kids turned out to be something far more sinister. The documentary featured former child actors, crew members, and staff who described a workplace where boundaries didn't exist. Drake Bell came forward and identified himself as the John Doe victim in dialogue coach Brian Peck's assault case.
In hindsight, I should have been able to see, but as a kid, you have no clue. But my dad saw it a mile away.
Other former cast members and crew described a toxic workplace environment marked by inappropriate behavior, sexual innuendos baked into children's programming, and a culture where complaints were ignored or silenced. The documentary sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. As more details emerged and former child stars shared their roles, people started remembering Lil JJ, the kid whose show had been canceled out of nowhere, who'd vanished from Hollywood entirely. Fans became concerned if he experienced this too, prompting Lil JJ to break his silence on Facebook with a now viral post saying, "Just Jordan got canceled. Ain't giving up no ass, lol." Lil JJ was confirming that his show got canceled because he refused advances from someone in power. The post exploded with comments flooded in from shocked fans, industry insiders, and people who'd worked at Nickelodeon, with one of the comments saying, "I'm glad he walked away from abuse. My kids watched his show." While another questioned Nickelodeon saying, "Where were the parents? Didn't any adults in Nickelodeon have any type of integrity, honor, or human decency? How were children allowed to be victimized and violated? Was the entire set filled with perverts, weirdos, and pedophiles? I hear Disney has that same problem with a lack of human decency. Look how damaged those young stars turned out." Lil JJ later clarified in a follow-up statement that he didn't experience direct abuse like Drake Bell did, but he faced severe mistreatment through exclusion and blackballing for refusing to conform to what was expected of him. And here's the critical detail that people often miss. Just Jordan wasn't even a Dan Schneider production. The show was produced by Ralph Farquhar, a black producer, who also created Moesha, The Parkers, and The Proud Family. Dan Schneider had nothing to do with Just Jordan. This means Lil JJ's experience was separate from the specific abuse cases highlighted in Quiet on Set, while the documentary focused on Dan Schneider's shows, All That, Drake and Josh, and iCarly. But that doesn't mean Lil JJ didn't witness or experience the toxic culture that existed at Nickelodeon during that time. Being on the lot, working with crew members who moved between shows, seeing how other young actors were treated, all of that creates an environment where even the people who aren't directly victimized still suffer from the trauma of being surrounded by it. As aforementioned, Lil JJ's Facebook post was about acknowledging that his career was affected because he refused to participate in a system that valued compliance over talent, connections over merit, and silence over speaking up. And once people realized that, they started to understand why he abandoned Hollywood in the first place. Staying would have meant compromising parts of himself that he wasn't willing to give up. The mental health breakdown. Between career frustrations, Lil JJ made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. In 2013, at 22 years old, he enrolled at Arkansas Baptist College back in his hometown of Little Rock. He pledged Omega Psi Phi fraternity on April 18, 2013, and for the first time since he was 11 years old, he wasn't performing for anyone. This was his way of stepping back from the entertainment industry to focus on becoming a regular person again. Going to college gave him normalcy, something Hollywood never could. He attended classes, he joined a fraternity and made friends who knew him as Jay Lewis, not Lil JJ the child star. He had the space to figure out who he actually was when he wasn't performing for an audience, but that decision came with consequences. The hype that was built around him vanished, leaving fans with no option than to leave him. There are also reports that suggest Lil JJ dealt with mental health struggles during this period. A 2019 social media post refers to suicidal thoughts reading, "Losing all my people. I don't know if I want to live or die anymore. Seems like everybody's leaving me behind. Confused about life at this point. Though the details remain private and unconfirmed, what is clear is that the combination of his career not going well, industry rejection, and the psychological impact of early fame pushed him to prioritize his mental health over his career. And in an industry that chews people up and spits them out, this was survival. The attempted comebacks have failed. Despite everything, Lil JJ never completely gave up on entertainment. He tried multiple times to make a comeback, but he wasn't successful. In the early 2010s, he continued doing small stand-up gigs at local comedy clubs, performing for dozens of people instead of the millions who'd watched him on TV, but nothing that generated mainstream attention or opened bigger doors. He'd post occasionally in social media, trying to maintain some connection with fans, but the posts felt hollow compared to his earlier energy. In 2015, Lil JJ appeared in the film Brotherly Love as Peanut, a small but decent role that fans hoped would be his comeback moment.
Film to drop in theaters.
I'm excited. I feel like this is a film that our generation needs. Like, as far as young, it's straight to the point.
But the film didn't get wide distribution. It came and went without making the impact that could have relaunched his career. The industry still wasn't ready to let him back in, but he kept trying. In 2019, he appeared in The Workout Room, another small film that most people never even heard about. Each attempt felt like watching someone desperately trying to recapture something that had been stolen from them. The talent and drive to act was still there, but the opportunities kept slipping away. The comeback is Big JJ. After years of silence, Lil JJ re-emerged in 2018 with a new identity. He joined Wild 'N Out, Nick Cannon's improv comedy show on MTV and VH1, as a recurring cast member starting in season 12. And this time, he wasn't going by Lil JJ anymore. He rebranded himself as Big JJ. He was now a grown man who had survived the industry's worst, taken time to heal, and was coming back in his own terms. Wild 'N Out gave him exactly what he needed, which is a platform that valued improvisation, quick wit, and comedic timing without the pressure of carrying an entire show on his back, appearing in a total of 89 episodes across 8 seasons. The work was consistent, the environment was supportive, and for the first time in years, he was enjoying comedy again. He also launched the We Ain't Done Wildin' Yet comedy tour alongside fellow Wild 'N Out cast member Mope Williams, performing stand-up shows across the country from 2019 through 2026. He later appeared in the stage play Redemption of a Dog, centered around rapper Snoop Dogg's life. But here's the thing, even though Big JJ was back on television and performing regularly, the relationship with his original fan base was never fully repaired. The people who grew up watching Just Jordan felt abandoned. They watched him disappear for years with no explanation, no goodbye, no acknowledgement that they had supported him when he was on top. And when he finally came back, he wasn't even trying to reconnect with those fans. Instead, he was building a new audience through Wild 'N Out, targeting a demographic that had never heard of Just Jordan in the first place. That choice makes sense from a career perspective. You can't live in the past forever, but from the fans' perspective, it felt like he had moved on and left them behind.